Now, okay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining March 11, 2021 Citizen Advisory Committee meeting. And I would like to inform everyone that the chief is actually going to join us a little delayed as he has a press conference. And we're just gonna jump right into it and go over some community business and updates. I actually just want to bring, before we go into a few of the other things, community ties, I actually want to bring up a few things with regards to some of the mayor meetings that I've attended. And I was quite intrigued by some of the services that the Lowell police officers actually, or the Lowell Police Department actually offers. So I wanted to see what we could do to warrant in giving that a little bit more exposure for the community, given that COVID is brought a lot of distress to families. And I believe that it's increasing public safety for the families and moreover the children. So one of them was the alternative house for the domestic violence. The director was there. If that's something that we could actually bring into this meeting as well, where it's public and the community will be a little bit more informed of those services, as well as the homeless initiatives and what's going on out there in the community with regards to the program that's available for reducing homelessness, being that there's so much. I mean, I know that the services existed, but I didn't realize that they were actually not getting enough exposure until I attended these meetings. And I think that they need to, given what's going on now across the board, especially within our community, I think that they need a little bit more exposure. And I did speak to a few people and they agreed. And I just think that maybe them to our meeting would be very beneficial to the community. So I wanted to bring that up as far as me. And obviously, where the chief is going to join us a little later, we could allow Nader to go into the community ties that he wanted to continue to elaborate on. If he's joined us already.
Hello. Did Marianne want to talk about the civil services? Oh wait, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Sorry about that. Yeah, so basically, I don't know if everyone has the presentation up. I emailed it out like a couple weeks ago. If not, maybe I could share the screen. Should I share screen or?
I can make you a co-host,
Okay.
Nader. Let me do that right now. Okay.
I think it's showing my like home screen, right? Can everyone see this?
Yeah, it looks good.
All right. So last meeting we had a chance to talk a little bit more about community ties, the different components, and kind of what the proposal is aimed at doing to, build upon the work that the police is doing, and then any like recommendations or anything that we should be adding to that. So today is obviously the community aspect of it. I had the chance to speak to the president of the Nonprofit Alliance for something unrelated, and she gave me some insights on the blind and how they work with the police and the obstacles that are there. So I got like some good insights from that. So I'll be explaining that as we go. But yeah, like Michelle was saying, there's multiple programs already in place, like the Family Services Office and the Lowell Police Department, and the partnerships that they have, with the schools, with the school resource officers, and just like the sidewalk talks and all these other programs that the police has to communicate with the community. But I think that there's always more that can be done. There's more partners in the city. There's a multitude of nonprofits and other organizations that want to work with the police and with the city. So these are just some potential partners right there. Center for Hope and Healing for, domestic violence and rape, CBA for those housing solutions, Acre Family for childcare and other resources for families. Obviously, UMassel with the research and the insight that they have, and even the students, so the human capital. And another aspect of it is even beyond the partnerships here in the city, what can we do to expand that throughout Greater Lowell and throughout the Commonwealth? Because crime doesn't stop at Lowell's city limits. I don't know the correct term, but it crosses from city to city, and especially since Lowell is, I guess, the one of the bigger cities in the area, in the Merrimack Valley. We just see it more predominantly in Lowell, but it is a greater Lowell problem. Um, so yeah, if anyone had any thoughts on any community organizations that you thought we should work with, or um, any specific programs, like I know, like I just highlighted here, youth, ethnic minorities, and low income individuals, just because I could have added mental, like those with disabilities and mental health, um, just because they're the ones that usually are in contact with the police the most, or are in the criminal justice system the most. So if anyone had any thoughts on that, and I know Marianne's going to be touching upon like what programs the city has in place, what ideas they had, and whatnot. So yeah.
So could I just add that you keep in mind the communities of faith in the city? There's a number of different churches, whether they're Hispanic, African churches, Brazilian churches. They're just a bunch of different churches in the city that in the past have had different activities with the police department. So just keep them in mind as well.
Or reaching out to citywide networks, Pastor Cecilio, and going to one network, which will gain access to multiple ministries at one shot, I think is a very good way to approach that. Instead of trying to reach so many, reach one network and get across to everyone at one shot.
Yeah, so Citywide is a great tool for that. Just keep in mind that not all churches participate in that.
Correct. So maybe even getting a list of all the faith based organizations that exist and sending a mailer to them. Is that something that might be more feasible?
Well, I think as we continue to do the work of this committee, that certainly keep them in mind for whether it's presenting this plan to them or any outreach efforts, or just even letting them know about what the police department is doing in the city. Um,
I agree.
I know that International Institute of New England just moved to the Lowell Community Health Center. So and Michelle and I were talking about this in a separate meeting, but like having that one stop for services for the community, I feel if there was, let's say, more of a presence from the police, maybe like a small office or maybe an officer that could be there just even just to protect in the lobby or something like that, it would show like the police presence in the community, and that's a place where people are constantly coming in and out for services, and especially to with the homelessness and like domestic violence, a lot of the cases and stuff get referred to from healthcare providers. So especially working with the refugees and the immigrant communities with the International Institute and all the other services around that area, because I know up the street is just Salvation Army as well. So again, tying into what the pastor said about faith-based, and I believe that there's another church right next to the charter school as well. So that would be a really good location, at least for the downtown area, where we could do these community outreach.
I was just gonna say that I think you can also include their Middlesex Community College since it is kind of in the center of the city. Right now, there's not many students going, but hopefully in the future, things do go back to in person, and that can also be a point of outreach.
So Nader, what is your goal with this ties program that you put together?
So my goal is kind of to have one, I guess, umbrella term for a series of proposals that, initiatives that in conjunction, they work together to, make the police more transparent, make it more innovative, educate the police force and educate the community. I guess this proposal is to kind of bridge those gaps and fill what needs to be done, because the city has already been really innovative and done all these great things, but there's still certain parts of the community that aren't being reached, or at least they aren't being heard. So for example, in this first community thing, the first part of it would kind of be who are our partners, who are our partners going to be to get these initiatives, get the word out, how are we going to approach it, and how can we measure the results after that. So this proposal, again, I guess, is like an umbrella term that we could refer back to and say, hey, our community partners, let's say we're working with, we discuss as a committee and we're like, hey, maybe it's a substance abuse problem that's affecting safety in Lowell, and the police officers are saying, yeah, we're dealing with a lot of substance abuse problems. We'll say, all right, our community partner is Circle Health and their behavioral technicians and whatnot, and they're going to be working with the police on this to do a training or whatever the case may be. And then after that, how do we measure that? Did the police officers say that this training was effective? Has it had a real impact on the street, and whatnot? So I guess, yeah, for lack of a better word, it's an umbrella.
All right. So it's the goal to have action steps under each of the areas.
Correct.
So I think also part of it is, so breaking down, I think Nader's proposal too, and having the police department talk about like what we currently have in place, and then see where the gaps are, and go from there. Or what we currently have in place and what we plan to do in the future. And then see the gaps.
Mhm. Nader, some of the grants that you mentioned that Mary confirmed were already approved, they're just kind of still in the works. Would they cover any of those programs that you're mentioning? Would they kind of work hand in hand with the ideas that you're
I
implementing?
know for the youth grant, that grant, right, Marianne, correct me if I'm wrong, that is that a yearly grant from the state?
Yep. So we have, there's several initiatives. I actually put together a PowerPoint on regarding community programs, youth programs and initiatives, community engagement, law enforcement partnerships, and then grant funded programs, and kind of break it down that way, and briefly go over each for the benefit of the committee and everybody watching to see where we have.
I feel like I'll kind of can make the correlation better once I know, like, this is that was just from the research that I did, but I know they had like, what's the one with the missing?
Reducing injury and death of missing individuals with dementia and developmental disabilities.
Exactly. So for example, that just taking that one into consideration, one that we could, a community partner that I'm thinking about is like Duville or these other nursing homes that have that experience in dealing with those type of patients. Also the community health clinic that works with those patients day to day. And there's also Life Links, they do like at-home visitations and whatnot. So there's a bunch of, community partners that we could reach out and say, hey, it doesn't always necessarily need to be about money as well. It can be informal and formal. So it could be like, hey, do you have any tips or whatever? And they're like, oh yeah, one of our nurses actually is trained on this. Would you like them to do, you know, a free little orientation for the police officers over Zoom or whatever? Or, and there's a multitude of online resources as well. I know I just did a training for learning on community policing that was with the Virginia Center for Police Innovation, and they talked about how there's formal and informal partnerships, and there's like all these different models that they use in community policing. But yeah.
So to kind of bring more awareness to some of these areas that are obviously not getting enough attention.
I have a question in regards to the programs that are running at the moment. Is there like a way for me to see which ones those are, like a list?
So what, so I don't have a list per se right now. However, I did put together a presentation that I could start if you want to move on to that piece and kind of go through everything. And that
Yeah.
is one thing that I think would be helpful. So we've been talking about that recently regarding like the family services unit and some other initiatives that we have. We don't have brochures made for like each specialized kind of unit or division. So that is something that we'd like to work towards and within the police department.
Yeah, for those types of program, for Lowell High School especially, we have like a weekly show that we do every morning virtually, and also we have panelists that do virtual like awareness sessions for kids to sign up for. What tends to happen is so we did one for Latin heritage. We had Latin speakers with different careers, different backgrounds, talking about what they do. And I was just thinking, because there are programs that the school runs and the programs that the police department runs as well for students in need, students that are parents at the moment, students that just need help regarding domestic violence as well. Those aren't really, you don't get like no light shed on those programs at all. So if I feel like the school would be very interested to have maybe panelists in the police department itself come in and speak about those programs. Maybe have students come in and ask questions if they have anything. Just so, because normally they tend to only be aware of it at the moment that they need it instead of beforehand when it gets before it gets at the worst when they do need it.
Right.
You know, it's better for them to know beforehand that they can reach out to
Prevention.
I think that's a great idea.
yeah, just prevent it from the start.
Right.
Maybe that could be another proposal to like find a way to streamline where all the services and resources are put and gathered together so that there's like a one place where, let's say, there'll we could do like family services and then a bunch of the community partners that there is, and then a link to, you know, the office within the police department, maybe a contact information, and do that for a couple things, make that visible. I don't know, maybe on the city website, you know, just because I feel like it's easier, like how Nicole was saying, especially I remember like Red Raider Report, like it you get to know a lot of things that you were like, wow, I didn't even know that was.
And they changed it. It's like a daily show and teachers come in and talk every week and things like that. And also reminds me, because when I worked at the Student Police Academy, we would teach kids about the fire department, the police officers, what the nurses did, what every officer did, the K-9 units, everybody, CPR, like just the basic things that everybody should know about from the start. But they were all interested and they know in their middle school. So I feel like it should continue on in high school as well, because unless you do the police academy, you don't really know all these things all the officers are doing.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, something so, because they would come in and teach for like an hour about their careers and what they're doing and where it is located and all that.
I think the panelists are a great idea. It's a lot of the programs that are currently in place. It's what the mayor's office did. A lot of the executive directors and some of the local police officers were the ones that spoke. So that's a great idea to bring that into the schools or into the Lowell High or even the colleges. I mean, we don't ever stop sharing awareness or providing prevention information. It's something that we need ongoing.
Yeah, especially for really young kids. Like I feel like middle school to like high school, whenever there's like a career day or like you learn about this career and how to get there and how they got there, they love signing up for those things because just a way to do something different.
Awesome. I think that sounds great. I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation. Let's see. I wonder if, oh yeah, okay. So I was just going to start with the law enforcement partnerships first. So we partner with both federal, state, and local law enforcement officials on a myriad of programs and projects that are both, prevention, intervention efforts. They have to do with investigations. The LPD also participates in several different task forces involving the Mass State Police, the DEA, and the FBI. Additionally, we are part of NEMLAC, the Northeastern Massachusetts Law Enforcement Council, and partner with the DA's office, the sheriff's office. One thing I do want to mention about the sheriff's office, and actually it includes both Trinity and Lowell Fire, and I'll get into this more later, but the Community Opioid Outreach Program team, it's actually housed out of the one of the sheriff's offices in Lowell, and the team is charged with going out to individuals after they have overdosed within 24 to 48 hours after overdose, and helping them with whether, at the end, the ultimate would be getting the person the help that they need in detox, but also helping individuals with various other needs like jobs, meeting the requirements for, in order to gain visitation rights back of their children, getting IDs, like just getting some helping them with basic needs, because there's so many other steps before a person might be ready for detox that they work with. And that's originally the co-op team started with the police and Lowell House, and then fire added on in 2016. And then slowly Trinity is also a partner. The sheriff's office, we're housed out of there and work closely with them. Lowell House is still a partner. The health department plays a big role, and it started with the police department, but it's under the health department now. So it's not, not your typical roles of these different agencies, and it's something that we're very proud of to have begun and continue to this day to be a part of. And it's very important here in Lowell and all over. And we work with, this is something else, we work with different law enforcement agencies on, because individuals may come to Lowell and unfortunately overdose, but don't live in Lowell. So they may live in a surrounding towns. So a lot of the different surrounding towns also have these types of teams, or maybe not exactly like co-op, but similar. And they assist in getting, conducting outreach that way through the other agencies that may have similar teams to be able to get to that person and get them the help that they need. Obviously it's all volunteer with the individuals, and it's opioid addiction is very difficult to overcome, and we all know somebody, it's I think 99% of us know somebody that's affected by this disease. So we're very proud of that one of the programs that we're very proud of. And then we also obviously partner closely with UMass Lowell Police, and we are part of the Police Executive Research Forum, which does a lot of evidence-based research in policing, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, These types of organizations are a great way to learn from other law enforcement agencies across the US and see what's been working in other departments across the United States, what doesn't work. And we can learn from our peers throughout, within Massachusetts and throughout the US, because people are trying new things every day. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the youth programs and partnerships that we have. So every year we do run a summer student police academy. This past year, because of COVID, we thought it was a little touch and go. We weren't sure if we were going to be able to hold it, but we were able to do it with only 30 people in each class, so a total of 60 youth, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and following strict, COVID protocols to make sure everyone stays happy and healthy. But we were able to do that, and it was very successful. We partner with Teen Block, the Boys and Girls Club, YWCA, UTEC. Obviously, we have school resource officers in the schools. We have a campus resource officer at Middlesex that actually we just a new officer was actually just assigned there, Officer Andeth Van. So she's going to be starting there shortly. We partner with the Lowell School Department on various initiatives, the Career Center for summer jobs or even longer term jobs for youth, the Recreation Department with their activities, CMAA, the West End Gym. This year we're starting with we're starting a police activities league, and to directly have police officers work directly with youth on various activities. We're looking at basketball, some basketball initiatives, possibly football, depending on in the later summer and fall, everything's dependent on the COVID protocols. So we want to just make sure that we're following all the proper protocols to keep everyone healthy. Community engagement is really important to us, and community engagement looked very different for us amidst the pandemic. And we tried to get creative and do different things. But what we'd like to really in 2021 really get back to our full force community engagement with our sidewalk meetings, the neighborhood meetings. We have been doing those. Like Shauna mentioned earlier, actually, there's a sidewalk meeting tonight in Back Central. Coffee with a Cop we'd like to get back to. Obviously, we do have neighborhood precincts. National Night Out is in the summertime, and that's a great opportunity typically we have it in 2 locations. Again, because of COVID, it was a parade of sorts of all the different partners, but typically it is 2 different locations in the city to make it easier for people to get to. In years past too, we've had 3 different locations, and we work with the neighborhood groups to run various activities and get to know our neighbors and things like that. Every year too, we also do a Lighted Up Blue for autism. Again, typically in years past, we've been able to have a big open house for Lighted Up Blue, and last year and this year as well, we're going to have to keep it to like just lighting up our the vehicles with the blue lights and in honor of autism awareness. And like Pastor Cecilia mentioned too, like our faith-based community. Now, a lot of times with our faith-based community, we're invited to various functions and activities, which I know, again, a lot of that has been has changed because of COVID. Hopefully, again, in 2021, we can kind of get back to something, especially as the nice weather is coming around like today, where we can get outside and do some meetings and activities outside. But we do definitely want to get back to that. Please let me know if I'm talking too fast. Okay, so some of our grant programs that we currently have in place, like Nader mentioned this one before, it's the Shannon Community Safety Initiative. And this is a yearly state grant through EOPS, the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security. And it gives us the opportunity to be able to help provide prevention, intervention activities for youth at risk to becoming involved in youth violence or gang activity. So we do, through this grant, we also partner with a lot of the youth service agencies, such as the Boys and Girls Club, CMAA. You typically do a summer camp with Lowell Community Health Center Teen Block, the Recreation Department, Mass Hire for Jobs, and there's several other agencies as well. This is the funding that we're able to start the Police Activities League with this year. A new partner under Shannon, which I'm really excited about, is Ironstone Farm. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the horse farm. It's out in Tewksbury, the Andover line. But that's going to be geared towards at-risk youth as well. And typically we also are able to do summer safe movie nights or some gaming initiatives under this funding as well. And because this grant is so specific, and we're targeting, we're trying to get activities to individuals in need. So our gaming nights or our safe summer movie nights, we typically are going into, our hotspot locations for these types of activities. The Safe and Successful Youth Initiative, we partner with UTEC on that, and probably 90% of the funding is passed through the Executive Office of Health and Human Services, goes directly to UTEC. And it is for proven risk individuals, young men and women who have either been involved in gangs or violence, and trying to UTEC helping them intervene and getting them on the right path. We do have several Highway Safety Division grants, road safety grants. Well, actually one, I'm sorry, this year. They used to split them up into a couple. Now they've combined it into one, and that really focuses on distracted driving, click it or ticket, the importance of wearing a seatbelt, and drive sober or get pulled over initiatives. This is the grant that we were talking about earlier, the reducing injury and death of missing individuals with dementia and developmental disabilities. Sorry. This grant is geared, we're actually going to be partnering with an organization that has, we're going to be able to purchase bracelets for. And so we're only going to be able to do a certain amount per year due to the cost, but we'll be reaching out. So we'll be reaching out to the senior center, and like Nader mentioned before, the various other agencies working with individuals with dementia and developmental disabilities, and also looking at our own data, because we have our own data of individuals that are reported missing often due to wandering or having dementia and other developmental disabilities, and seeing if, obviously it's a volunteer program, seeing if they're interested. We also are going to relaunch our Safe Watch program, which individuals will be able to send information to the Lowell Police Department to, if they have a loved one that it has a tendency to wander, sending us information like a current picture, places they like to wander, how do they communicate, are they verbal and nonverbal, do they what's their first language, and a best ways to communicate with individuals, because having that information is crucial, I think, for officers responding to a scene. If the missing is located, understanding their communication methods and it will be very helpful in the transition to reunite the individual back with their loved ones. We also have state 911 support funding that helps fund dispatchers, and training, which is all focused on dispatcher training. And that's through the state 911 department. Our domestic violence prevention and intervention grants are, I think like Michelle mentioned before, we partner with, our major partner is Alternative House. However, we do work with several other agencies in the city as referrals for individuals, victims who need services, and try to get individuals out of the situation and the help that they need and the support that they need in order to get help them. And then our substance use and disorder prevention and intervention grants as well. That's a lot of that. We've been able to work closely with the health department and have been able to fund some positions within the health department to build their capacity on substance use disorder and disorder prevention, I should say, and intervention. And this is centers around the community opioid outreach program, which I mentioned before. And we have been able to, with new funding that we received last year, we were able to hire a youth outreach coordinator, which when Nicole mentioned about the daily shows, I immediately thought of the youth outreach coordinator and getting, obviously we'd have to talk to the health department, but I know that they would be on board getting her name out there and, you know, how she can help individuals affected by the opioid epidemic. And then our justice and mental health grant, last but not least. This is, we've hit some bumps in the road on this one because we've had to change our behavioral health partner due to unforeseen circumstances, but we're on the right path now with this. And definitely in 2021, we will have clinicians on board in the police department to co-respond with officers to instances where, you know, somebody be maybe in mental health distress, or in other incidents as well, because there are other incidents that may not come through initially as a mental health issue, but there could be underlying issues there. You know, it could come in as a disorderly or could come in as a domestic. But these clinicians will be able to co-respond with officers to these incidents and help the individuals in distress. And yep. Now I tried to briefly go over everything, and I know I probably missed several things, but does anybody have any questions? Hi, Chief. Sorry.
Thank you. Can you share that with us?
I can certainly send it. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry I was late. Kind of unavoidable not to be at that press conference. So, you know, sad story, that big fire we had up there on Western Street where 50 families were displaced, and we lost the life of a 76-year-old man. But hopefully today's arrest will give the family some feeling of justice now that we carry this case forward into court, and hopefully has a successful conclusion. I know it won't bring them back, but you know, once again, when we talk about crimes not going unanswered here in Lowell, between the officers that went there that night and caught people jumping out windows and got babies being dropped out the window, to the detectives that chased this case, which on some days we thought we weren't going to get. Definitely a dogged investigation. They did a great job, but we're fortunate to have them, really. Not just saying that. I'm just lucky enough to work here. So again, I apologize for being late. So I don't know what's next, Marianne. I don't have the agenda.
So up next, actually, I think I'm talking again.
Yeah.
But does anybody have any questions about kind of what I just discussed regarding our current programs and what the police department's doing?
I just have one question.
Sure.
About the justice and mental health.
Mhm.
So you said it's not up and running yet?
Yes, so that one, so we are working closely with advocates. It's the contract isn't finalized yet. However, they're our new partner. So they're going to be coming into the city. They actually have vast years of experience in the justice and mental health co-responder program and jail diversion. They actually started this program in, I think, probably 17 or 18 years ago now in Framingham Police Department. And as far as I'm aware, they were actually the first in the US, and we're super excited to be partnering with them. It's just taken a little longer to get here than we wanted, but that's part of the program is hiring clinicians through advocates. So they'd work for advocates, but they'd be housed in the police department so they could respond with officers. The other part of it is training all of our officers on mental health first aid, as well as training at least 20% of our officers on critical incident team training. So we have been, those two things we have been working on, even though we don't have the clinicians on board, but we've already been training. I think we've trained close to, 25 officers, and we have actually another cohort going in March in CIT. And I know we've incorporated the last couple of police academies. We've incorporated the mental health first aid, and now we're working towards getting individuals trained in mental health first aid. It's just a long process. The mental health first aid is an 8-hour course. And then the CIT training, the critical incident team training, is a 40-hour a week course. So to get 20% of our force trained, which is the ultimate goal, at least 20%, it's taking us a little longer just because we can only have 5 people in the class at one time, because the classes are run with many other police departments as well. And there was a slight pause in those in-person trainings as well during COVID, but we're back now.
Great, that's great. I think that's great that you guys are doing that, because that's really much needed.
Thank you. And this is something we've been working on and for probably the past 4 years. We've really been kind of methodical and planning it out, and getting funding through the Department of Justice to be able to fund the clinicians has been crucial for us, especially in these economic times now. So we're super excited, and I know the officers, the chief can't wait, the officers can't wait to have these clinicians on board, because it's just another tool in their toolbox and to help them when responding to incidents when people are in mental health distress.
Just to add on that, for the training, I know that they're I did this training for being a peer leader, but there's like free trainings that there's this, I don't know if you want to write it down. It's called the Columbia Lighthouse Project. It's from Columbia University, and they have like it's called the CSRSS. It's called the Suicide Severity Ratings. It's something like that. And they have like I remember in the training, like they had like a section where it was like where law enforcement officers can ask people about their suicidal intentions and their mental health, and like I think it's like 3 questions, and then refer them to like obviously mental health providers. So maybe that could be like a good first step training.
What? I'm sorry, can you repeat? Columbia Lighthouse
Project.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it says the shortest training takes about 20 minutes, and
Oh,
almost
wow.
all of them can be completed within an hour. And they're I'll send the link actually.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
That's why we're so excited about the clinicians, because a lot of times we end up in these situations and we know people obviously need help. And but it's very hard for us to get them services. And hopefully with the clinicians, they'll pick up the ball for us at that point and get this person where they need to be. So that's why it's been critical. I mean, we've done a lot of training on de-escalation, but then again, if someone's having a mental breakdown, the de-escalation thing doesn't always work. We've done shield training, basically to put something between us and the person that we're dealing with, as not to have our people hurt or him hurt, and we kind of make some maneuvers to try to pin him and get him secured onto a hospital, currently into the ambulance or whatever. But the officers have really shown a lot of restraint, but every time we go on these calls, it's, it's like waiting for the other shoe to fall. I mean, we really need to have these clinicians with us to, to be able to help us and help the people that need the help. So like Mary Ann said, this is like her and I priority. I mean, we want this done as soon as possible. God forbid we hurt someone unintentionally under the current climate, then all the work that we've done for 20 years here in the community policing could go out the window. So this is a very difficult time to police. So we need to be extra careful, extra respectful. And I know the officers are doing that. And I hear some stories that many of these situations could have gone another way. And they come out to be a successful conclusion. But I know that it would have been a lot better of a conclusion if we could have taken that person to the next step that particular night and get him a bed that he needs and get him somewhere he needs to go, as opposed to dumping him up the hospital and then they kick him out the door. So that's what we're hoping for. I mean, again, I know I ask this every week. How far away are we now? We're hiring? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, so Advocates is actually moving forward and posting the positions and starting to vet people, keeping Lowell in mind. And we are in the process of getting, I actually just got I'm waiting for a revised budget back from Advocates in order to move forward the contract within the city and move forward with updating BJA on that as well. So that literally is just happened within the last 24 hours. So it is definitely something on our forefront, but Advocates is moving forward on their end, knowing that this is happening, this is coming, and we're committed.
Okay, I think the only thing we need to talk about, I don't want to tie the committee up, but maybe you and I can talk more about it tomorrow, but we need to set up an office for them here in the PD, make sure everything they need is in the office. So as soon as they hit the ground running, we can work, the office will be all set, and then we can do the introduction to the offices and see how we're going to work the scheduling and all that stuff.
Yep.
I don't want to have them get here and then have to do all that. I want this thing to hit the ground running.
Right.
Right.
I have a question.
Sure.
Because the clinicians aren't there at the moment, so where are the people who are in suicidal like circumstances, where they're pointed towards?
Well, that's our challenge is that, we get someone, and a lot of times if they threaten to commit suicide at the PD, I think it's called the Q5, the state, we have to notify the state. So no matter where they get arrested in Massachusetts, when they get booked and their name goes into the system, they'll put them as a Q5, notifying that those PDs that they have to be watched much closely and maybe taking more things off of them than you would a normal person. Just not their belt, but probably their shoelace, just different things that we do to try to make them as safe as possible. But they don't belong in jail. So usually what happens is someone threatens to commit suicide while they're here. Correct me if I'm right, Mary Ann, I believe that we reach out to, who do we reach out to, and they make the determination of whether they should go?
I think is it Leahy, the emergency services provider?
Yeah.
And that's when they're in custody. If they're not in custody, it's much different. So there's something called and please correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, Section 12.
Yes.
That is utilized to be able to get them to the hospital and get the help that they need. But a Section 12 isn't the end all be all. It's not the answer for this. There's much more needed. So having the clinicians on board, so we do divert them as much as possible, and not we'd never want to, we don't arrest someone because of their suicidal thoughts or tendencies or attempts or whatever. But it would be much easier if a clinician was on board, because then that clinician would be able to follow up, and they have a whole set of other tools in their toolbox that is going to help that person so much better than we can at the moment. Like the most we can do, I think, try to bring them to the hospital, but you also get released within a short period of time. So that's really not the answer. So once we have the clinicians on board, it's a game changer for the police department and for these individuals and for the community.
Right, Nicole. So they go to the hospital. We have no control over what the doctor does up there. So if the doctor doesn't agree with our assessment of how this person was acting, because we have to fill out the form, then he can kick them out. He can basically let them go. And then we're right back to square one. And we've been there, we've gone back a second time, the same day for the same person. But like Mary Ann said, with the clinicians, they have the connections, but there also needs to be more involvement with the state as by providing mental health beds for these individuals. There's not a lot of them, but obviously with the clinicians, they know the system and they'll be able to get the people into the right treatment and get them back on their medication where they need to be. And they're safe. And that was the goal is.
Yeah.
So Mary Ann, do you want to go over the recruitment information?
Sure.
Yep.
I'm going to share my screen again. This will be pretty brief.
For a second.
Oh yeah, sure. Sorry.
Just want to take advantage of Chief being here. So Chief, the body of Moses was recovered. Just wondering if there was recent communication with the family.
If we talked with the family?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I think it was Sergeant Joe Murray and Sergeant Dave Lally went over to see them that evening and filled them in. I'd have to check to see if we talked to them since then, but I know that they were briefed on everything they needed to know as far as, the recovery efforts, how he was found, what the next steps were. And I saw this afternoon that because he was found in Essex County, that they handled the press release. The ME's office identified young Moses, and the family's been notified of that because we were kind of tentative. We knew it was him because of tattoos that was on him when they recovered the remains, but we wanted to make sure, obviously. So, and actually, ironically, today there was supposed to be another search for Moses. There was going to be a dual search for Moses and Mrs. Oberhauser. And then when Moses was recovered the other day, we just focused on Mrs. Oberhauser up on the Merrimack River today, but numerous people up there. But yeah, we have been in contact, and I know that some people are still upset. They're on social media today and saying that, we didn't do our job, we're not releasing the report. And we've gone over this a million times with the family. Why we can't release the report is a domestic violence report. There's a victim name on that report. We even got consultation from the DA's office to see if we maybe, what do you call it?
Redact.
Thank you. Redact names, and they did not agree with us releasing the report. So it's kind of like they're asking us a demand that we can't meet, and they know that. So they're going to be back here again Saturday with the protest, and they're trying to raise money for a private autopsy, which is their right to do. They can do that. I know. I don't even know what that would cost. I would imagine it would be a lot of money. But anyway, this is where they're headed, and they're still upset no matter how much we try to communicate with them. And it's really not as much the family. I mean, you got the brothers upset. He posted right after we left the house, notified the family. We understand that people are upset. You lose a loved one. But basically, he said that God would punish the person who took my brother away from us. But that's just people deal with it in different ways, and they're still in the angry phase. And I wish we had body cameras that night. I mean, we're working towards them, but I think that this would be a whole different thing. So I talked to the union about it, and I strongly feel that this is where we need to go. And I think the city's working towards trying to come to an agreement with them. And hopefully we have them, and even more communication can be even more open, so people can see exactly what happened, especially now in this climate. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to briefly go over. So we already ran, we had our first session for recruitment because the Massachusetts Municipal Police Test is coming. The deadline to apply is April 20th. So we had a first session that went very well on Thursday, March 4th, but we are having 2 more sessions, Saturday, March 20th at 11 a.m. and Thursday, April 1st at 5:30 p.m. And to sign up, people can send an email to policerecruiting@lowellma.gov. And one thing I do want to mention, because this is being recorded and this is going to be playing at a later date on LTC, there is and I'm going to, I have a direct link because it's not easy to find on the website, but there is a financial hardship waiver. And I can actually post the link in the let's see if I can get it right now. But I can post the link in the chat as well. Of course, this is not, let's see if, nope, that's not going to work. Let me see. Sorry. But I do, I think it's important for people to be aware that there is a financial hardship waiver that you can access. And it's just, here it is. It seems to get buried in, nope, that's not, this is all the information regarding the exam. But you know what, it's probably going to be easy for me to post it in the chat. There
Will
it
the
is.
public see that link on the chat?
What I can do is I'm also going to post this on our social media as well, and I'll share the link directly with the committee members. So it's actually right here.
Can you share the link on the Lowell site, the Lowell.gov or the Lowell Police Department website?
The website, yep, we can actually update that. I'll update that a recruitment page.
Yeah, like you could probably even create like a Google link
Yep.
from that.
Yeah.
So
But there,
people
okay.
that are interested could have access to that link. Make it obvious.
But it's a great opportunity. The information sessions coming up on the 20th, March 20th and April 1st. Great opportunity to ask questions, meet some officers, and basically ask any questions that you have about the process, the recruitment, and all of that. And we will, like we did 2 years ago in the last civil service exam. So this actually will be the first civil service exam that is done on a yearly basis. So going forward, that was part of the police reform. It'll be every year. And so we will hold a prep session for individuals that live in Lowell that have signed up for the exam. It'll be sent out, the information will be sent out after the period is closed for the application process, and everyone will get the information on how to, it'll probably be another Zoom session. We wouldn't be able to do it in person, I don't think, but for individuals that have signed up for the exam that live in Lowell, a civil service exam prep session. Did I miss
Is
anything?
the first session a good turnout?
It was a good turnout. I think we had about a dozen, I think. So we definitely want to keep getting the word out there to individuals, and the more people we have apply for the test, the more pool we have to hire from. So since we're a civil service department, we're really trying to get a lot of individuals to apply and take the exam.
Yeah, we were usually the first one that, it's not as big as the other ones. It takes a while for the word to get out, but we're excited with the caliber of the people that were on there. A lot of young women were on it, right, Marianne?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of kids that were reflective of our community, which we're very, very happy with. Is what we're trying to accomplish here. So, but to see, I think really stood out to me was the women that were interested in becoming cops, which is pretty cool. So
Yeah.
It was a success. We'd like to see more people, but with your help, hopefully we will.
Just one last thing. I'm gonna send another link for you, Marianne, for some other free trainings. This is the one I did my training this week on community policing. It was pretty informative, and also because it's with the cops office, so it's really focused on like the police officer's perspective as well. So it's insightful, and there's a couple others too. They're there, and then Michelle too. There's some homelessness stuff up there too, of a program that they did in Utah with community. It's called the Host Program. So if you want to look at that right there too.
Nader, if I can, I saw that on LinkedIn that you attended that class, and I'll tell you right up right to your face, I was very happy with that, because it goes to show you the young people in the city are paying attention and they're taking the initiative of you just not only being on this advisory committee, but going the next step and trying to learn more what you can to help us out. And I don't want you to think that that went unnoticed, but thank you.
Michelle and Chief, if I could suggest a couple of things we consider for the future
Sure.
meetings. One is the level of GAM activities in the city. I don't think there's much, but it would be good to be updated as to what's going on with that. And number two, what are we doing to engage more of the community participation in these meetings? So
I'm sorry, Pastor, what was that again? Engage?
how do we engage the community participation? I know it's difficult with having these meetings on Zoom, but I'm hoping that the community is watching these meetings and that if they wish to participate or ask any questions, that they have the opportunity to do so. So, thank you.
Yeah.
I do want to mention, I'm sorry, I was muted. I want to mention that we do post the agenda on the city website, similar to, and they can, individuals can sign up and send an email to me and register to speak on a specific agenda item. So that we can certainly do that.
We post that we're meeting on like the local social media, since more people might be able to see it.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Yeah.
So we can start to post the meeting agenda on the social media, LPD social media, certainly.
Michelle, I have a question. Well, or more information about the homeless program that you mentioned that you learned about. I just want to like learn more about it and how.
So I actually was able to listen in myself. So I'm actually meeting, well, the way everyone is meeting today, right, remotely. I have a meeting with the director to learn more of the initiatives with regards to the homeless. But I mean, I'm aware of the fact that it exists and I'm aware of some of the programs, but I didn't have enough or as much as information. So once I actually acquire all of that information, I will be more than happy to share whatever it is that I learn. But I can contact, the committee via email with some of the information that I did learn. But all I have right now is that there is a program that the Lowell Police Department has to help reduce homelessness. And the director participated in the mayor's meeting and shared her contact information so that we could reach out to her if we had any questions. So I'm in the works of that. And once I acquire that information, I will definitely share it abroad.
Yeah, I think that's through the city. There's a homeless coordinator through the city. I think that did she speak at the meeting?
Yeah, so there was
Yeah.
actually, I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
So the executive director for the alternative house spoke and the director from the homeless initiative spoke on 2 different meetings. So
Oh, yeah.
I've reached out to both of them and they're both through the city and the Lowell Police Department. So, and like I said, I'm aware of a lot of the existing concerns in some of the programs, but I learned a little bit more attending those meetings. So I'm tapping into learning more information that I could share.
Great.
So that when we have these meetings, like Pastor Cecilio said, we're not too sure who's really watching these meetings, right? So I've said it before, not everyone reads the Lowell Sun or watches LTC or even listens to WCAP for that, but everyone's paying attention to social media. And that's why I mentioned to you, Marianne, that we needed to try and make a lot of this information that we have a little bit more obvious on the websites and on social media, because that's what everyone is paying attention to. And that's why, Pastor Cecilio, if you look at our minutes, that's why we have that paragraph in the beginning because it is posted, we wanted everyone to be aware that we meet the second Thursday, and that if they want to speak on any of the topics that we're going to be covering, they could email so that they can actually participate with us and be part of the meeting. And then, of course, not just have to watch, but actually engage with us in the meetings, which we thought would be really important to the community. But we want to give it, I agree with you, we want to give it more exposure because this is community. So.
Thank you.
I have just an idea or like a suggestion. For just like our school website for just Lowell High School, we have the main page, and like every week or so or every 2 weeks it gets changed with like it's a little slide with an image of what's coming up and when the event is or what it's about, and there's always just you can tap on the image and get to a link to get more information, maybe something similar like that
Mhm.
on the police department website. That way it can get updated every so often, and people can just see what's coming up maybe this week or the next one, just so it's easy to access and just the first thing you see when you get on the website.
That's a great idea.
Mhm.
Yep.
So as far as like next steps, as far as our meetings are concerned, with regards to the proposal that Nader prepared, that's kind of what we plan on doing every time we meet, since we're only meeting once a month, right? As far as the proposal, the community ties is concerned, as you noticed, it's outlined and it's broken down. So every time we meet moving forward, Nader is going to go over that. So we're always going to introduce what the next topic is going to be about with regards to the community ties. So Nader, in closing, will mention what we're going to discuss the next time we meet as far as community ties. We'll go over the minutes and we'll go over whatever's happening with regards to the chief, or for instance, now with all the recruitment that's going on, and of course, anything else that anyone brings to our attention at the time. So like right now, Nader could come in and just share what our next topic is going to be covering the next time that we meet, just to kind of give everyone a little bit of an idea as to what we're going to discuss as far as community ties is concerned.
Yeah, so the next topic is going to be focused on transparency. I know just a little quick overview is to continue the efforts of transparency and accountability in place to reassure the public and to reassure Lowell Police Department's commitment to serving and protecting. So if anyone wants to like do some research on transparency or any initiatives or anything you want to bring to our next discussion, feel free. Also feel free to email any of us.
And as we've stated, we meet the second Thursday at 5:30, and it is remotely for now until further notice, right? We hope that we could all meet in person and have traditional meetings soon. And then, of course, it's recorded and it's broadcasted live on LTC. In this case today, it's pre-recorded, well, not pre-recorded, recorded, and then it's going to be aired at a later time. But if anyone has any questions when the agenda is posted, or if they want to participate and speak, they could email at mmanzi@lowellmass.gov, and they could request to speak and just mention what topic it is that they want to speak on. And I think that pretty much covers our meeting for today, unless anyone has any other questions or concerns or anything that they want to add. I think that that's our agenda for today.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michelle.
That's it.
I think we're good.
Meeting adjourned.
Yeah, good evening, everybody.
Yeah, have a good night.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Have a good night.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys. Take care, guys. We'll talk. Bye-bye. Thanks, Mimian.
Thank you.